Hey guys, it is time for Science Today. Yesterday, you watched a video that I posted about weathering, erosion, and deposition. So we're just kind of going to review those terms. What is weathering? What is erosion? What is deposition? And then you're going to answer some questions for me. Tomorrow, I have a Generation Genius video for you and one of those really fun quizzes that we've done. And not like a quiz, like the really fun, it's kind of like Kahoot, but you can do it by yourself at home. You are going to love that. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about weathering, erosion, and deposition. This is a great anchor chart to help you remember what they are. So when you think weathering, I want you to think breaking. So that is when we have a breakdown of materials of Earth's crust into smaller pieces. So when something gets weathered, it breaks it into tiny pieces. So you can see right about here, hopefully you can see my mouse on the screen. You can see all the little chunks right here that are being broken down right here. And this weathering part is happening with the rain or whatever is happening. It's breaking it down into tiny pieces. Now, erosion takes it. So weathering breaks it, erosion takes it. So that is when water, ice, or wind, or gravity, remember we talked about gravity, that takes those fragments from weathering and it moves it from one place to another. And how much erosion takes place, it kind of depends of how much of the pieces, how many pieces are there, how steep the slope is, the speed, or the surface. So again, weathering breaks it, erosion takes it, and deposition drops it. So the process, deposition is the process which sediments or those pieces from weathering are laid down in new locations, building new landforms such as deltas, canyons, meanders, and floodplains. So again, we have weathering. So it'll start off with weathering. The rain will come down. Just picture. The rain will come down and there's a rock and it breaks it up into small pieces. The rock is being broken up after years and years and years of rain and cars driving on it and everything. The rock gets broken up. Well, then erosion is the process of it taking it. So it gets close and the rain is swooshing it out and it is taking those pieces down the road, okay? So then its new home is deposition, and that is where it falls and that's where it drops. So rather break, erosion, take, deposition, drop. Okay, so let's look at Steve the sedimentary rock. This is how sedimentary rocks are formed. So first, weathering is a process that breaks down rock into smaller pieces. So that shows you a process of weathering right there, a real life picture. That big rock goes into smaller rocks, and that can happen a bunch of different ways. So remember, weathering breaks it. One way that rocks are weathered is when rainwater gets into tiny cracks, and sometimes those cracks are so small you can't even see them with your eye. And then so this is talking about weathering. So first we start off with weathering. It breaks it down into smaller pieces. The rainwater gets in those cracks. And then, the temperature drops to 0 degrees Celsius or 32 degrees Fahrenheit. It freezes. And the water in the cracks freezes and it expands. And the pressure from that expanding ice can cause the rocks to break into smaller pieces, and that's what's called sediments. Now, sediment is the pieces of those rocks that are broken down. So, again, we have rain, gets into the tiny cracks in the rock, freezes the rock, rock breaks because the water expands. So then these sediments don't just sit there. They're not just like, oh, we're broken. That's when erosion happens. So then erosion is a process that carries the sediments from one place to another. So weathering breaks it down. Erosion takes it. So these are some different processes of erosion, how these things happen. So moving water, that's how sediments get moved from one place to another. Ice or glaciers, that's another way that sediments get moved from one place to another. Or the wind can move it from one place to another. So then erosion takes place. The rain got into the rock. The rock froze. It broke into sediments called weathering. And then erosion, it got into, let's say, a river. It takes it along. And then this process can take quite a long time. And sediments can travel extremely long distances. So erosion can take place for years and years and years. But finally, when the water slows down, these sediments are dropped off and deposited. And that happens when the river meets a lake or an ocean, and it's called deposition. So again, rain comes down, it gets into a water, it gets into a rock, the rock freezes and breaks. That's weathering. Weathering breaks it. Erosion, it's in a river, it takes it down. And then finally, when it meets a lake, it drops it off, and that's deposition. So that's the life cycle kind of a rock or sand. Well, there we go. And that is the end of our PowerPoint today. Okay, so you are going to, for your assignment, you're going to answer some questions for me. So let's see what those questions look like. I am going to post the PowerPoint right here, right down below. So if you need help or you don't know the answer to these questions, what you're going to do is you're going to read back over the PowerPoint, but you're going to answer these questions. And guess what? It tells you what slide to look on. So what happens to rocks during weathering? Guys, remember, weathering breaks it. Okay. But if you don't remember, you're going to go over here to the second page. You're going to go over here to the second page, and you're going to tell me what weathering is, and it tells you right there what weathering is. Then you'll go through and you'll answer all of them, but it tells you those slides, slide whatever, and that is how you can find your answers if you don't know. I just went over that whole process with you in this video, so you should know the weathering breaks it, erosion takes it, and deposition drops it. All right, guys, I love y'all so much. When you finish these questions, just take a picture, turn it in, or upload them using the PDF little arrow thing. All right, guys, love y'all. Have a good day.